Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Well, hello again, and today we're going to continue with a series called The Motivations of Life. Our last lesson was on the fatalist, person who has a fear of failure, tends to run from responsibility, has difficulty making positive decisions because of a fear of failure. When you have a fear of failure, it affects every thought. And we try backing into success, and you really can't do that. It takes some gusto, some determination, some belief that you can achieve before you can really achieve. So the person who has doubts and fears and identifies with the mistakes they've made in the past, lifetime mistakes, collection of them, tends to hesitate to assume responsibility. And without responsibility, you really can't handle authority. And so without the ability to deal with authority, then probably that person is going to be pretty well limited in what they can achieve in their life as far as leadership roles, financial rewards, etc. In fact, the absolute fear of failure causes a person to stand on a street corner and hold a sign saying, "I'm out of work and need help." Well, that person's difficult to help because they just can't believe in themselves. Until they start believing they can achieve, they really will not. And so no matter how much we encourage them, it's very difficult to get them to stretch. We did a little covering on what you as a leader or as a salesperson can do to open their minds and give them enough confidence to trust you in your leadership to help them achieve whatever the goal was. Today, we're going to look at a whole different ballgame. We're going to look at a fear of failure or a fear of loss of power in a relationship. The fear of loss of power would be considered failure to this person. If I don't have power, if I don't have the authority, if I'm not the boss, if I can't use my strength to wow everybody and bow everybody over and whatever, then I'm a failure. And so it's almost appears to be the opposite of the fatalistic motivation. We call it the exasperator motivation because it tends to exasperate people. These people or people with this motivation deal with on a day-to-day basis. They are the kind of person who likes to rub you the wrong way on purpose. They like to criticize just for the fun of watching you squirm. They like to call you names, not names like stupid, but they'll make up names, all kinds of silly names. If your name's Bob, they'll call you Robert. If you're Robert, they'll call you Bob, just to be different than everybody else. They like to make their mark, and they make their mark by being different. And because being different is important to them, they want to stand out. In all this, they're trying to impress you with who they are and how strong they are and how you can really trust them and believe in them. The fact is, in most cases, because they push so hard and because they focus so much on putting other people down to build themselves up, they tend to turn people off. And so it's anti-productive behavior. We're going to go through the five things that kind of identify the attitudes, personality, and value system of the person or the motivation we call the exasperator. Now, once again, when we call the exasperator an exasperator, we're not saying that's a name. It's an action. It's a reaction. It's a mindset. Nobody can be called an exasperator, but we can say that person has exasperator motivation, and it's showing in their personality, their performance, their relationships, etc. Number one on the list of things that identify, or you can identify this motivation with, is the word enmity. The exasperator has a tendency to create problems where there's no problem, create upheaval where things should be running pretty smooth, finding fault and then with a critical attitude, putting people down with strong language. And so people are always saying, how can you spend time with people like that? I have a good friend, his name is Bob, and Bob's been my friend for a lot of years, and he has this motivation. He's been through my seminars several times, and he labels himself, that's me, I'm the exasperator. Kind of brags about it. The fact is, very few people like to be around Bob. I have friends who say, how can you spend time with that guy? He just drives me crazy. He's constantly critical, constantly putting down. One Upmanship is his favorite thing to do. Well, if you understand that he needs that position recognized, remember, power, position, and strength are the things that he desires, wants, needs, and as a result, everything he does is to hopefully impress you with how powerful he is, how much strength he has, how aggressive he can be. And understand this motivation comes in both male and female. You see a lot of both, and this will ring a bell with you. With Bob, I simply give him recognition the first thing in the morning. The interesting part about that is if I give him recognition, all I have to say is, Bob, I don't know how you do all that stuff. I would wear out at noon and you go on forever. And he says, oh, nothing to it. Just stay in good shape. Nothing to it. And he's good all day. He'll not argue with me. He's very supportive. He's very creative. I mean, the guy has fixed my cars. He's rewired an area of our home. The guy can do anything physically with his hands. He's just outstanding. And he's, loyal as the day is long. You don't say anything bad about me to Bob, he's liable to poke you in the nose for a little while. He's that kind of a guy. He's my friend, and so he defends that friendship. But if you were observing our behavior, and the first thing in the morning or the first time we get together, you'd think that he hates me the way he takes shots at me, calls me a name, calls me doctor, and kind of makes fun of the fact that I have a doctorate. That's Bob. If it bothers me, then I'm allowing his behavior to control my behavior, his behavior to control my thought process. Anytime somebody bothers you, it's your fault. Sorry to tell you that. You need to realize you control your thinking. And anytime somebody bothers you, you've allowed somebody else to control your thinking. You've given up control of your own thought process. So when Bob calls me names and puts me down and takes shots at me and all those things, I just let it roll off my back because that's just Bob. Bob being Bob, establishing his position. All I have to do is say, Bob, you're the greatest. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have a friend like you. Oh, nothing to it, anytime. It's just that kind of a guy. Second word is the word enslave. And the exasperator believes you have to be their friend or their boss or their employee. It's a control factor. And with Bob, if I say, I was spending some time with a friend the other day, I thought I was your friend. He said that to me over the years, 100 times. I thought I was your friend. I always say, Bob, you're my best friend. This was an acquaintance. Oh, all right, that's okay then. He's got to be the best friend because, you see, he's an exasperator and he's got to be number one. So they tend to own you, expect you to bow down to them, expect you to be a little reverent when you're around them, a little bit, put them a little bit on a pedestal. give them some sincere compliments about their achievements and their achieving. And so you kind of belong to the Exasperator, and this is why most people are not comfortable with Bob, because he wants to control them, and they don't want to be controlled by Bob. And so Bob doesn't understand why people don't like him more, why they don't invite him to functions. It's because he turns people off with his aggressive attitude of put-downs and criticisms to build himself up. Anybody who's putting people down to build themselves up has this motivation. It's a fear of loss of position or power. And that causes them then to be aggressive in establishing their position and showing off the power they have in that relationship. Number 3 on our list of things to look for in a person who has this motivation is energetic. They tend to be high energy people. They do high energy type work. They like to do physical labor. Anything from building, any type of construction, heavy equipment, anything that's physical appeals to them, because when they do the job, when the job is done, they can stand back and look at it and say, I did that. I built that house. I poured that concrete. I overhauled that engine. And that's somewhat of a trophy. It's a recognition, basically, of their achievement, which establishes their feelings of security, that I am who I am and I'm an achiever. Number 4 on my list of personality traits is enforce. The word enforce. Very seldom will an exasperator ask you politely to do something. It'll normally sound like an order. Get your tail over here. Quit lollygagging and get to work. That type of talk is all exasperator talk. It's somewhat of a put-down type command that they use, and in the process of that, build themselves up, because I can tell you, get to work. I'm the boss here. Who do you think you're talking to here? Get with the program. And most people say, okay. So that just encourages them to keep telling people, get your tail over here. And then number 5 on my list is enraged. Don't get exasperators mad at you, because they will poke you in the nose for a little while. They've been known to fist fight, to get into heavy arguments and end up in fisticuffs, bloodying somebody's nose and then bragging about it for the rest of their life. When people get to that point where they are enraged, where they have allowed physical behavior to make their point, to establish their position and their power, then they're really out of control. And the problem is the fear motivation is so strong that I will fight to establish my position. Not pleasant. That's not pleasant. You do not want to get into an argument with exasperators, because if you win, you might end up in a fist fight. Just know that. For sure, you're going to be called names for a period of time. So it sounds like these are terrible people. Actually, my friend Bob is a very highly productive individual. He does so much physically, builds houses, overhauls engines. He can do the electrical work in a home, anything physical. When you have a person with this motivation as a friend, they are so loyal. If somebody says something bad about you, they're going to be in trouble, because they'll fight for you. They'll protect your name. Bob one time went to a guy's house in the middle of the night and flattened all 4 of his tires. I said, Bob, why did you do that? Well, he owes you money and he's not paying up. Maybe that'll get his attention. What do you think? yeah, it might get his attention, and he might think I'm the guy who flattened his tires, and I might see a little bit of his displeasure with that experience. Can you imagine coming out to go to work and all 4 of your tires are flat? Somebody in the middle of the night came by and flattened all 4 tires. It's one thing to have a spare tire. It's another thing. 4 spares? I don't think so. Bob was doing me a favor, he thought. Actually, I could be the one that they recognize as the one who might have flattened the tires. And that's not a good thing. So the behavioral patterns of a person with this motivation is they just have to win, have to be the winner. If they don't win, they're going to make all kinds of excuses why they didn't win. You know, wrong time of the day, wrong golf club, wrong baseball bat, something was wrong because things didn't happen the way they should have because I should have won. The other thing you'll notice about a person with this motivation is they need recognition for their power or position, and so that's why they brag a lot. That's why they say, yeah, I've done that 100 times. That's no big deal. I can do that in my sleep. It's that kind of almost a put-down type statement of person who has achieved something. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I've done a lot better. And they don't apologize for putting down the other person's behavior or the other person's activity or success. One Upmanship is something that we see all the time where no matter what you say about somebody, this person's done one better. Well, that's exasperator behavior. Exasperators have to be one notch above all the rest in whatever. Doesn't matter what you talk about. Yep, going to New York City on vacation, that's a good trip. You'll enjoy that. My wife and I are going around the world. One Upmanship. Looking at buying a new car. I'm really thinking about getting a used car, but I looked at those Chevrolets. They're really nice. Chevrolet's okay. I prefer Cadillacs myself. Not driving one, but he prefers them. But it's a position. One Upmanship. Bragging or acting conceited is just a way of life with a person with this motivation. If it doesn't bother you, they're great people, strong, loyal, great friends. I count Bob as one of my best friends. Have for years, clear back into the '60s, and and we have a real history. But if I were to see him today, he'd say, "Hey, loser, what's going on? What are you failing at now?" It's just Bob. So what do we do then in dealing with this so that it doesn't bother us and it doesn't destroy a working relationship or a sales situation? Number one, we give compliments. How long you been doing this? Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, well, and let them brag a little bit. Positive questions about their achievements always makes them feel like you have accepted them as a person because you're accepting their achievements. They identify with that which they have accomplished more than who they are as a person. So their badge of success is always something they've achieved. And there's nothing wrong with that unless it gets in the way of good working relationships. So in sales, what you have to do is give recognition for their achievements. Tell me what you've been doing. Wow, that sounds impressive. How long have you been, that type of thing gives them a position so they feel you have accepted them for their achieving and achievements, and that's their badge of authority. Recognition for their skills. They develop skills in many areas. I was mentioning how many different things Bob does. They're highly skilled people because they develop the skill level to be an achiever in that area so they can have bragging rights. Here's a good statement to say to a person who's blasting off with exasperator things like, hey, loser, you know what amazes me about you? And you can put anything in there you want, but you'll get their attention real quick when you say, you know what amazes me about you? I use the same sentence on Bob all the time, and he just gloats on it. And this is not coercive behavior. This is giving recognition where recognition is needed because of a mindset and a value system and a fear motivation, fear of failure, fear of loss of position and power. So, if you will give them recognition as a salesperson first before you make your presentation, if as a manager you will give them recognition at least once a day, preferably twice a day, morning and afternoon, just point out why you appreciate them. They will work their tail off for you. They will be the kind of person who will be loyal, be supportive, and will be a great customer. Great referral business comes from the Exasperator motivation. In our next program, we're going to be looking at the appraiser. The appraiser is the bean counter, the detail person, the accountant, the research scientist, the person who is the perfectionist. You're going to need to see this one because this is one of the more difficult people to understand and relate to because of the projection of attitude and the words they choose to project that. We'll look forward to having you on our next program.